And it kind of got my brain moving in an entrepreneurial real estate direction. And Kiyosaki's big thing is you got to learn how to sell. I was done with my Army time, so I'm like, what should I go do? I'll go sell knee and hip replacements. So I sold knees and hips for 8 years. Hobby-wise, I love wakeboarding. We get our best business ideas on the beautiful Mississippi River while we're wakeboarding from March to November. And then I'm married with 4 kids. They're pretty young. We had a lot of kids really fast, so that's kind of part of why we got into lease options too.
As Jimmy mentioned, I went to the Air Force Academy. For those that don't know, you need a little bit more brains than if you go to West Point. I spent 5 years in active duty Air Force. I was a civil engineer. I managed construction projects. Did 1 tour in Iraq doing reconstruction work. I got out in 2011 and jumped into real estate investing full-time at that point. I started off wholesaling and rehabbing. Those are great strategies. You can make money there, but they don't lend well to scaling up.
Okay, so who's read Rich Dad Poor Dad? Woo. Okay, everybody. So you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you're all fired up. I want passive income. And so, at least in what I saw when I was getting interested in this, you kind of have 3 options. You got wholesaling, you got fix and flip, you watch HGTV, you're all interested in that. Like, it's so easy, you're going to be having money all the time, it's going to be awesome. And then you also have rentals. So the reason we stumbled upon lease option, quite frankly, is because we fucked up all of these. So
yeah, we're very high quick starts. I don't know if anybody's taken the Colby test out there, Colby Index. We highly recommend it. It's helped us figure a lot of stuff out. But Jimmy and I are very high on the quick start side of the scale, and we're very low on follow through, very low on organization skills. And you need a lot of organization and follow through if you're doing fix and flip.
Like a call to a contractor and like, is this done? That is my own personal version of hell. Like.
Okay, so wholesaling. Some of the pros are you can get quick cash and it's relatively low risk. For those that aren't familiar with wholesaling, you're basically going out and tying up a property under contract that's deeply discounted, and then you're going to turn around and sell that property to another investor, and you're basically just flipping the contract. So you don't have any money at risk, no capital risk, very little time. You can get a payday in under 30 days. For most wholesale deals, I don't know what the average is around the country, but I imagine it's anywhere between $5,000 on the low end to $15,000 on the high end. Granted, you can make much more than that. We've had bigger wholesale deals, but that's probably the median range. But the con of that is it's just really a high-paying job. There's no passive income element to it. You always got to be chasing the next deal. And you're selling to cash buyers. And most of you might think selling to cash buyers is a big plus because they have cash and they can close quickly. But what they don't tell you is that cash buyers are a relatively small slice of the buyer pool. They're sophisticated investors. They're very good negotiators. And overall, they're very cheap. And I know because I am a cash buyer. I'm a very cheap buyer. And if you're wholesaling, you're essentially leaving all the meat on the bone and passing it off to another investor because you don't have the capital, the connections to take the deal down yourself.
And then fixing and flipping, like we've already said, running teams, running contractors, it's just not our strength and we're not good at it. And we will do an occasional flip if a house is just screaming for it. But like I said before, we've definitely destroyed and lost some money on a couple flips. I mean, the pros is the big payday. That's why it can be on TV, that's why it's interesting to other people. But there's a lot of cons nobody ever thinks about or talks about. So you have to wait, you have to pile all your capital, you have to wait 3 to 6 months to get paid. It's unoccupied. And from my point of view, it's high risk and high taxes. You take all the risk and you most likely pay short-term capital gains, which is 35%. And that's what I was paying as a W-2 employee. And I'm just not interested in that sort of deal. It's time intensive, and then you have picky buyers, and then you have to have the bankers who are also picky and slow us down. And then there's the miscellaneous costs that eat away at the deal that once you have to sink that capital into the deal, it slows you down from your next deal.
Yeah, you've got holding costs, agent commissions, and when you're dealing with picky buyers, you've got seller concessions, sometimes a home warranty. And I mean, who else here besides us has gone over budget on a rehab? Anybody? Anybody in the room? Okay, yeah, pretty much all of us.
Okay, so rental. So I think I had a W-2 job, and I probably had 20 rentals with you, and I had 10 rentals with another partner, and they were well managed, and they had good maintenance systems, and they just didn't make any money. So we got to a point where we were highly frustrated. We weren't making any money. We were getting close to $750,000 in debt, and we're like, we need to change something. So the pros, why people get sold on rentals, is the cash flow. You live for the long-term appreciation. You want to pay that down over 30 years, and there is the tax advantages. The cons are all the management, all the repair costs, all the tenants, which is just not our strength.
Yeah, so we've pretty much walked through the pros and cons of all the three traditional strategies: wholesaling, fix and flip, and rentals. But with lease options, you have the ability, basically, with this hybrid strategy, to combine the pros, the benefits of all three of those strategies, and simultaneously eliminate almost all the downsides. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to show you how you can eliminate 90% of the competition from other agents, home sellers, and investors by selling to motivated buyers. We're also going to show you how you can make money 4 ways with just one deal. On one small deal, you're going to make money like a wholesaler, you're going to make money like a landlord, and you're going to make money like a flipper. You're also going to eliminate all the major expenses and headaches of real estate, costly renovations, holding costs, and we're going to show you how to save 20% on your taxes. And lastly, we're going to show you our favorite source of private money, something nobody really talks about. This is a huge pool of capital that's people that are predisposed to investing in real estate and the type of deals that investors specialize in. Okay, so secret number 1, we're going to eliminate 90% of the competition by selling to motivated buyers. Who here has been told when you're looking to buy a house that you want to buy from a motivated seller? Anybody? Anybody in the room? Yeah. I mean, it's a great strategy, and it makes a lot of sense. You want to find somebody who doesn't just want to sell, but they have to sell for a reason. So why don't more investors do the same thing when they're selling their property? Oh, well, the graphic's not working here. But basically, the left side of this was going to represent the supply, total number of houses that are on the market. And if you look at the total supply, about 90% of folks want to sell their house for cash right away, right? Most home sellers...
Hit the thing and it'll come up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No.
Kind of.
Oh, no worries, we're going to scrap it. So, basically, out of the total buyer pool, and we define buyers as people who have the desire to be a homeowner, they have the down payment, and they can afford the monthly payment on a home. Only about 10% of the buyer pool can actually qualify for traditional bank financing. So 80 to 90% of that buyer pool, those folks that meet that criteria, who want to be homeowners, they can't work with a traditional bank lender because they either have a credit score issue, they might be self-employed, need 2 years of tax returns, or maybe they just moved to your area and they're new on a job, they need 6 months of pay stub. There's a lot of reasons why folks might not qualify for a traditional bank loan. So when you can offer your house on terms, you're basically targeting that 80 to 90% of the buyer pool that nobody else is talking to, because everybody else in the room wants to sell for cash right away. So, I mean, it's simple supply and demand, it's Econ 101, and here we go.
Boom.
So, this is Jimmy's drawings here, by the way, everyone. It's pretty artistic. That's what you get when you go to West Point. So here's you at the bottom. When you offer your house on terms, like I said, very few investors, home sellers, or agents are willing to talk to non-qualified buyers. And you basically have them all to yourself.
Okay, so secret 2, Ben kind of prefaced it for us, how you can make money in 4 ways with one deal. And like I said, the main thing for us is cash flow. If appreciation happens, that's great, we're happy, but when we put money into a deal, we need cash out of it that month. Good. So I kind of already said it's all about cash flow, and then nobody knows about this. This is probably the best kept secret. You get these pays 4 ways. You get the acquisition fee. So if we take a house down for 50 grand, we're going to borrow probably 60, so we can take that 10 grand to pay our team to market and to do whatever minor rehab the house might need. And we're still protecting our private investor because we're buying these houses with a market value of $110,000 to $120,000. So it's not hard for me to get on the phone and get them to lend on an asset they're borrowing at 50% of market value. So we get the property, we get our 5 to 10 grand, then we put it into our marketing system, then we get our tenant buyer. Instead of getting first and last month's rent, we're going to actually get an option fee. We're going to get at least 5% of the final sales price of the property. So that goes to pay our sales guys, that goes to pay our team, and it's another way we're extracting cash out of the deal. Then after we get that option fee, it's the rich dad, poor dad dream. We're going to start getting cash flow every month from the property. And then if it happens, great, it's a nice cherry on top. But occasionally, they will cash out, and it's a hybrid strategy. It's just a delayed flip.
Yeah, so it really comes back to rich dad, poor dad's definition of an asset versus liability. And we've designed this model to basically extract money from houses and get paid every step of the way. So we're going to actually walk you through this example, this real deal. We just closed this deal out a few weeks ago. This is a little crackerjack house, nothing special, pretty simple, plain. This is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, 1,120 square feet. So we ended up actually acquiring this property for $19,000. Let's walk through the numbers. We acquired this property for $19,000 with closing costs and just a little bit of cleanup. We were all in this thing for $20,000. But we lined up a private lender to give us $25,000 to acquire this property. So day one, when we left the closing table, we got a check for $5,000. So we've essentially wholesaled it to ourselves, right? We've made money just like a wholesaler did on this deal. We plugged it into our marketing system, and we targeted that motivated buyer pool that nobody else is talking to because we're offering the house on terms on a rent-to-own. And we got a $2,000 non-refundable option deposit. This is not a security deposit. It's not like dealing with a traditional tenant. This is non-refundable. It goes straight to the bottom line. And then we ended up renting this house out for $700 per month. Between our payment to our private lender, tax and insurance, our expenses were $350 per month. So we ended up making $350 per month each and every month on this deal while we held it. And the other big kicker here is that the tenant buyer is responsible for all the ongoing repairs and maintenance. So we're not answering the phone when the toilet has some issues, and then we're not coordinating with the handyman. That whole piece is out of the picture. All we got to do is make sure the rent shows up on time.
And I think that's the piece why it allows us to scale. We're not paying a full-time maintenance guy, and all our capital isn't getting sucked into those ticky-tack phone calls. It's going on to the next deal.
Exactly. So basically, the tenant buyer, we have them sit down with the mortgage broker when they sign the lease with us, so they know exactly what they need to do to get their financial house in order. And then we got a call from our mortgage broker that said, hey, they're ready to go. We wrote up a new purchase and sale agreement. The sales price on this house was $49,900. Now that $2,000 option deposit the tenant buyer gave us, that's going to count towards their purchase price when they buy. But we ended up having a net after what we paid off our private lender of $22,900. And from the cash flow every month during this deal, we made around $8,700. So all in, we netted just over $38,000 on this tiny house that we bought for $19,000.
And then psychologically, I think the main rub of this strategy is we're making $350 a month on an asset that we bought for $20,000. Like, we're not like hand-wringing saying, please make this sell. What do we have to do to get this to sell? If it sells, great. If not, we just collect the $350 that month.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I love the strategy. That's what helps me sleep at night.
So here's another deal, a little bit bigger. This house on Tiffin was a 3-bed, 2.5-bath house, 2,350 square feet. I'm not sure if you can tell in the picture, but this middle picture here, that's the kitchen, and it's basically gutted down to the studs. So there was a leak up on the second-story bathroom, kind of cascaded down to the rest of the house. And this is how we bought it, and this is how we also sold it to the tenant buyer, just like you see it right here. And the only way we're able to do this is because we're targeting that motivated buyer pool that nobody else is talking to, so they can only see our houses.
And this guy is a contractor. He was not intimidated by this project at all. This is what he does all day during the week. And no conventional lender would speak to him. So we come to him, we're like, we'll extend our credit to you. You use what you're good at, and we'll partner up on this deal, create a win-win. When he's done with this, and he can't qualify for conventional financing, he'll have 30 grand of equity in the house.
Exactly. Here's a few more pictures. That's that second story bathroom. So here's how the numbers split on this one. Again, we got paid 4 different ways at 4 different times on this deal. We purchased this property for $50,000, borrowed $60,000 from my private lender, so we walk away day one, basically wholesaling to ourselves with $10,000 in the pocket. This house, because it had so many bedrooms, it was a large footprint, we had a lot of interest on this one. We ended up getting a non-refundable option deposit of $9,400 for that as-is gutted kitchen house within 30 days. We actually had multiple applications on this one. This was our best application. We got cash flow each and every month on this deal of $450. This one's actually still in our portfolio, and we've got equity in this deal when the tenant buyer buys of about close to $70,000. So end sales price to the tenant buyer was $139,900. Comparable sales for this house when it's fully fixed up are probably close to $155,000, $160,000. So there's still a little bit of meat on the bone there for the end tenant buyer, especially because he's a contractor. He can get that job done way cheaper than we can as investors. Because if you look at most renovation costs, about 2/3 of the cost is labor. So if he can provide his own labor, get sweat equity, he can pocket the difference.
So like we've already said, we eliminate costly renovations, holding costs, agent commissions, and seller concessions. All of our capital and all the capital we borrow is going on to the next deal. That's why we're able to buy 100 in a year. So I already went through this. Keep going. Okay, this is my favorite slide. Who here is getting into real estate because they're a W-2 employee and they're tired of paying 35% taxes? Okay, so then why would you adopt a real estate strategy where you go and take all the risk and all the time and then you go pay 35% in taxes? So like, with flipping to me, I was just like, I'm not doing that again. I'm taking all the risk, the money I'm sinking into deals already been taxed, so why not adopt a hybrid strategy where to get the tenant buyer qualified, to get the rehab done with the tenant, it's gonna go probably a year. And then, wow, you go from a 35% tax bracket to 15. Like, once we start getting under 20, I'm willing to pay that tax. And then, once again, on the whole scaling theme, if you're paying 35% of your capital to the government, it slows down the velocity of your dollars.
Yeah, so when we spread out the cash flow over the life of this deal, we've pulled some of our back-ended equity forward by borrowing correctly. And by using a private lender, we're able to be patient and wait for our end tenant buyer to get their financial house in order and actually close on the property after the year point so we can take advantage of the tax benefits.
Okay, and so this is also my favorite secret. This is what Joe's helped us with. You know, no banker gives a shit about YouTube. No banker gives a shit about some operator's ability to sell and market. So right now, we haven't talked to a bank in like 6 months because they slow us down, there's underwriting, and we're not able to really leverage our unique ability. And everybody came to this conference to kind of learn a thought leadership platform. And no banker gives a shit about your thought leadership. And these deals are like, I mean, we'll take stuff down between $20,000 and $70,000. So it's a wheelhouse for a private investor who's got cash in the bank, cash in a life insurance policy, or we learned about a new liability yesterday, cash in these self-directed 401ks, which we'll go talk about a lawyer about on Monday. But if you're looking to raise private money, like we're like on an island saying, go find people who sell life insurance. Go find people who have cash value in their life insurance. You don't sink $200,000 into life insurance if you love the stock market. So their brain is already looking for alternative assets. There are financial planners out there giving up their securities license so they can direct people into life insurance and direct into alternative assets, whether it's syndication, flips, whatnot. So there's a book called Become Your Own Banker with Nelson Nash. If you're going to look for books to read after this conference, I'd highly recommend that. Because we've adopted this whole life strategy and got into this niche, like that's why we haven't talked to a bank in 6 months. And then the YouTube channel, we give them the initial pitch, and then they look through our 90 YouTube videos, bagging on qualified plans, bagging on bankers, bagging on not thinking outside the box. And they just call us up and we're like, you know, how much money can I lend you? And I was like, I don't know, how many deals can Bob find this year?
Okay, so this is the last deal we're going to leave you with. And some of the deals we've shown you here are really extreme cases. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you do this in the beginning. We kind of just fell backwards into doing these deals. This house on Lakemont actually ended up earning the nickname in our office, Big Red, and you'll see exactly why in just a minute. Basically, we acquired this property for $28,000. We borrowed $35,000 from a private lender, so we walked away with $7,000 in our pocket. Comparable sales in the area in this home were anywhere between probably $110,000 to $130,000, depending on the level of finishes. We marketed the property as is on a rent-to-own at $79,900. And guess what happened right after we bought it? Yep, random electrical fire, 2 in the morning, and the garage burned down.
So if this was a flip, or if this was a long-term buy and hold, we'd be dead in the water.
Yeah.
Just hosed.
Yeah, we'd have to get crews out there. Obviously, we had to send our insurance agent out there to assess the damage, see what was going on. During this period of us trying to be like, okay, what should we do now? Because we're really bad at rehabbing. We don't want to rehab it. But we actually still had all of our marketing out from before when we were marketing the property at the $79,900 price. And the contractor was driving through this neighborhood. He called us up and he said he'd take the house. And we're like, wait, you know, the house that has the burned down garage? He's like, yeah, I want it.
Like
okay.
that, when you have 80% of the market to talk to, there is one guy where a burnt down garage is like what he's looking for. Because he's able to leverage his skills and talents at this point. Yeah,
To a carpenter, this is no big deal. This is like a few weekends. So here's how the numbers actually played out on this deal. We made our $7,000 acquisition fee just like a wholesaler. We ended up getting a $3,000 option deposit from this guy. We ended up getting the $24,000 insurance payout, and since he handled all the repairs, that went straight into our pocket. We're getting $350 of cash flow each and every month on this deal, and when he eventually buys, we get about $40,000 payday on the back end. And think about it, he's buying a house at $80,000. If he fixes it up nice, it's gonna be worth $130,000. It's still a great deal for him.
And I think his he just got divorced, so no conventional lender would talk to this guy.
Yeah, and obviously his wife wasn't picky about a burned down garage.
Right.
So here's a quick recap of what we've gone over, but you know, we got about 6 minutes left. We'll just go straight to questions. Anybody got anything? Yeah, in the back.
Can you do this in Texas?
Pardon?
Can you do this in Texas?
No, so Texas, from my understanding, does not really like lease options, but you can basically pivot to owner finance and do the exact same thing or do a land contract.
So look up Mitch Stevens, he operates in San Antonio.
Yep.
So what about renting a non-habitable building? Do they give you if it goes south, do they turn you into housing and then you get...
Yeah, so we basically in our lease agreements have what's called our Exhibit B. It outlines all the repairs that the intended buyer is to do, and it very explicitly says that they are not to move in or occupy the house until everything is passed code and local municipality has signed off on the deal. The other thing we'll do is because, especially on the homes that need a little bit more work, we'll give like the first 2 months maybe half off rent because they're going to be living somewhere else while they're fixing up our house. So we might sacrifice a little cash flow in the short run to offset all the repairs.
Yeah, maybe I misunderstood, but on that last example, the guy had a purchase price at $80,000 for the burnt down garage. Pre-fire for $28,000. Talk a little bit about that. Are you finding those on the market, or how are you finding
Did you get that one on the MLS?
No, that one is actually a deal wholesaler brought to me. So I think he ended up getting that under contract for $25,000, and he's a good friend of ours, another big investor in town, and he just had too many deals on his plate and couldn't handle another rehab. And so, we took it off his hands. He made his $3,000, passed it on to us, and we just put it into our rent-own system. Did that answer your question?
Is there an upper limit in price where this doesn't work?
Yeah, so you definitely need to be medium price point or under. People who have a good job, who have money, they don't want to move into a house and do work. They want something that's completely move-in ready. So this definitely needs to be in your blue-collar neighborhoods.
But, for example, in Denver, the median home price is $369 now. So is
I mean,
350
we come
gonna
from-
work?
You just
or
gotta
is-
private invest with us in St. Louis.
Okay.
I mean, we live in cash flow heaven. I don't think this would work on either coast but the trade-off is you're gonna get appreciation in those markets. St. Louis doesn't have these crazy appreciations like either coast.
Are you looking at banks or Craigslist? Where are you finding your tenant buyers?
We do a combination of Craigslist, we do VFlyer, which is a syndication site. You post the ad there once and it shoots it out to Zillow, Yahoo Real Estate, Trulia. And then for about the past year, we've been just killing it on Facebook. Just doing targeted ads around the geographic area of the house.
What percentage of your buyers convert to actually exercise that option?
Yep. So roughly about 10% of our buyers actually can get the financial house in order to qualify for a traditional bank loan. What we do with the other 90% is if they can demonstrate 2 years of on-time payments with us, we'll end up converting them over to an owner finance. Because they've still given us some skin in the game. They've got more skin in the game in the form of repairs in the property. They've demonstrated an ability to pay on time, so we'll convert over.
And then we have other liquidity strategies. We can then sell the note if we wanted to.
Have you ever had a situation where like they want to exercise the option, but then they want to come out to you for the repairs they did for the property? How do you protect yourself from that?
Never had it happen.
No. I mean, I assume we go to court and be like, look, it's in the lease. They signed that they're responsible in big bold letters that they're responsible for this.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Yeah, so we're really bad at screening, so we just pass it off to this guy in St. Louis who does it all for us. He used to just run a big management company and, you know.
So he sells a thing called the cash flow guarantee. We've done a couple of videos about it, but if you pay him an insurance premium, he will pay you up to $3,000 in missed rent. So on the 5th, if somebody's late, we call him up, hey, our rent's late, dude, and he wires us their rent. On the 10th, they go to eviction, and then you just got to keep them apprised, hey, they're going to eviction. And the way he gets his money back is if it goes to sheriff's eviction and we do get a judgment, we trade him the paper of the judgment for his cash. So it's kind of, lease option, I just looked at it as like a put on all of our cash flow. Default as in going all the way to eviction?
Yeah, probably, 5 to 10%. Yeah.
I mean, we will file for eviction like every other landlord, and then we'll go through the process, but generally at the court date, they show up with the cash.
About 10%, unless, and then owner finance the rest.
We pay 8% quarterly. Yeah.
And then are they, like how long have you had a house? You said these people are actually going through buying the property. So if they're, you put another person in, get another deposit, and continually have this private investor on the hook for that property, or
Our notes are
how that property is handled?
Our notes are 2 years, and so you're saying if the tenant stays and maybe converts to a month-to-month rental, like how do we get the private financer out of the deal?
Yeah.
We refi him out with another private lender.
I do. What is there some language or something that you can or can't say because of the current Dodd-Frank rules? Like, for example, when you're...
Well, I mean, any part of language, I'm going to say it. Now, are you asking, is it legal or not?
I just think that there's ways to... But does this fall into that?
When you do into the owner finance, you need to get an attorney to go through the Dodd-Frank and the RMLO and all that process. So we didn't really add that to this talk because it's like another 20 minutes.
Okay.
But for lease to own, no.
At least I don't know. But
No.
owner finance, yes.
Yes.
Do you guys structure each purchase in its own LLC, and you have one investor specific to that one house, or do you kind of structure all of your deals to be a part of one business, and the investors are kind of diversified across all 100 properties?
It's one investor, one property secured by the note and deed of trust. And I think that's kind of our competitive advantage when we look for private money, because they like the security of being the one and only person on the title, or on the note, sorry.
What was the entity, though? You guys hold?
We hold all in LLC, and then each property is in a trust.
So you have one overarching LLC.
Yep. In the back.
Do you guys ever run into problems with eviction that they say that equitable interest because that option fee?
Sometimes, if it does go real south with the tenant, we'll end up, yes, having that argument. And, worst case scenario, we'll say, how about half of your option deposit back or something like that, just to get them out the door, basically kind of a cash for keys scenario. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
You guys kicked ass. That was so cool. Yeah. Jimmy and Bob, that was awesome, huh? There's a lot of questions from that. Okay, so we're about to break for just over an hour and a half, but I've got a favor to ask you guys. Has everybody enjoyed this? Raise their hands. Would you want us to do this next year? Yeah. Okay, if you want us to do this next year, this is my favor. I'm hoping that we can all crowd to the front so we can take a picture of all of your happy faces. If you're willing to do that, maybe we'll do this next year. All right. So maybe a little bit of music to brighten the mood while we're doing that.